we're going to talk about subtracting integers with the bucket method. Sometimes it's called with the tile method, but subtracting integers with the bucket method. Well, first of all, we need to have things to subtract. So if I have 5 minus negative 2, that's a subtraction problem that we can do. So let's look at this. We're going to start with 5 positives and then take away 2 negatives. That's what that problem says. That says start with 5 positives, take away 2 negatives. So here's 5 positives, and we want to take away 2 negatives. The problem is we don't have any negatives in our bucket. I cannot take away 2 negatives. So if you remember from a previous video that we can add or take away zeros without any penalty or anything at all, we can add in a 0. So there's a 0. That doesn't change the value of it. Well, look what appeared. A negative appeared. So right now we could take away 1 negative, but we don't need to take away 1 negative. We need to take away 2 negatives. So I'm going to add another 0. And lo and behold, I now have 2 negatives I can take away. So I started with 5, and I need to take away 2 negatives. So I'm going to take away these 2 negatives. And what am I left with? I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positives. And so 5 take away 2 negatives is 7 positives. Now, I didn't change the value of the original number by adding those zeros. I just added enough zeros so I could take away 2 negatives. Let's look at another example. What if I have negative 3 take away negative 2? Well, that looks pretty complicated, but let's see what we can do. Negative 3, so I start with 3 negatives, and I need to take away 2 negatives. Well, that's actually pretty easy. I can take away 2 negatives right there. I don't have to do anything special. What am I left with? Just 1 negative. Well, that was a lot easier than it looked. Let's take a look at another problem. What about if I had negative 2 and I want to take away 4 negatives? What am I going to end up with? Well, let's see. That says we start with 2 negatives and I want to take away 4 negatives. I definitely do not have enough to take away 4 negatives. So I'm going to add a 0. Well, there's 3 negatives. How about if I add another 0? Well, now I have 4 negatives. They're not all together, but that's okay. I'm going to take away those 4 negatives. I'm just going to go like this. You can do it whatever way you want, but I'm taking away those 4 negatives. And that started with 2 negatives, and then I taking away 4 negatives, and I got enough negatives by adding zeros, and what that leaves me with is 2 positives, and that's the right answer. It really is that easy. Let's take a look at one more, and then I think we're all set. Let's see. Let's start with 5, take away 3 negatives. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't have any negatives there. Okay, there's 1. Oh, you're probably figuring out how to do this pretty quickly. 5, take away 3 negatives. So I'm going to take away those 3 negatives. And what am I left with? I'm left with 8 positives. And that's it. It's really that easy. Thank you.